Welcome to our first hovering lesson. To hover in ground effect means to maintain a constant position a few feet above the ground. It is not as easy as it sounds. In fact, hovering a helicopter is challenging, a bit like trying to pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time. A helicopter has 3 highly sensitive controls, but at first I will be giving you only one control at a time to handle. Your first control to master will be the collective lever. Remember, it is located on the left side of your seat. The collective controls your height above the ground. We will use it to take off to a hover. When you raise the collective control, the pitch angles of the main rotor blades increase. This increases lift, and the helicopter climbs. When you lower the collective, pitch angles decrease. This decreases lift, so the helicopter descends. Easy, right? Another thing we will need today is the EPM, which stands for Electronic Pilot Monitor. You might remember it from our previous lesson. Today you will learn monitoring power percentage with a multiple limit indicator. The most important thing to remember about power indications is to never go over 100%. You can read more about that subject in the briefing notes. Okay, enough lecturing. Time to fly. Before taking off, always check that all gauges are green and that we have enough fuel. As you can see, the tank is half full. This is more than enough for our training. Now look left and right to make sure we don't have people or vehicles approaching. All good, and we are clear to go. You have collective control now. Slowly raise it to the point where we become light on skids. This will be around 65% of available power. Be careful. First, you won't see any reaction to your movement, but power will catch up soon. Now move the collective just a little more to get to 2 feet altitude hover. And don't mind us moving laterally. Today I will take care of that. Keep hovering at 2 feet now. You see, since we are hovering so low, the altimeter will be not useful. Judge your altitude just by looking outside. 2 feet is approximately 1/3 of the length of the Cabri skid. Remember, the main trick of the hovering challenge is to move the controls as gently as possible. There you are. Keep hovering at 2 feet now. When you find a proper collective position, you don't need to keep adjusting it, given that we are not moving and there is no wind like today. Look around and memorize how 2 feet of altitude looks. You see, since we are hovering so low, the altimeter will be not useful. Judge your altitude just by looking outside. Also, look at the power indications and memorize the number. 2 feet is approximately 1/3 of the length of the Cabri skid. This is the amount of power required for hovering in ground effect, and it depends on lots of factors such as our weight and the weather. But you may find it useful to remember this number for our training today. Now let's see how little you should increase power to hover at 8 feet altitude. Gently raise the collective just enough to get to 8 feet altitude and stop there. Great, you are getting more more and more confident with collective control, keep hovering at 8 feet while I am talking. Look around and try to remember how 8 feet altitude looks like. It is an important altitude. You should avoid climbing higher when you hover in ground proximity. We will talk about it more in our later trainings, but for now, just remember, if your engine quits when you are higher than 8 feet and you don't have enough airspeed, you won't be able to land safely. So whenever you hover stationary in ground proximity or hover taxi, stay below 8 feet and you will be safe. Now let's go back to a 2-foot hover. Still remember which power indications to aim for? There you are. I can see that now you understand sensitivity and inertia of the collective lever much better. Our last objective for this training session is landing from a hover. Remember to always stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude before touching the ground. Now, very gently lower the collective control until you find yourself firmly on the ground. Remember to always stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude before touching the ground. Congratulations! You just did your first landing from a hover. You mastered collective and hovering flight pretty well. Time to start mastering anti-torque pedals now. Welcome to the second part of our hovering training series. This time you will get familiar with anti-torque pedals. I will be helping you at first, but by the end of this training session you will be in full control over our heading. Let's start with taking off to a hover. You already know how to do that. Before raising collective, always check that all gauges are green, we have enough fuel, and there are no obstacles nearby. All good. You have collective control now. Gently raise it, get light on the skids first, and only then take off to a 2-foot hover. It is nice to see you are getting more and more confident with collective control. Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. It is nice to see you are getting more and more confident with collective control. Let's move on to the anti-torque pedals now. Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Look, they're located in the same position as the rudder pedals in airplanes. They also serve similar purpose, which is controlling the direction where the nose of the aircraft points. Only that in helicopters it happens due to increasing or reducing the thrust produced by the tail rotor. Try to gently apply pedals one after the other, and you will see how the nose yaws in the direction of the applied pedal. Easy, isn't it? Now try to turn toward the helicopter parking on your right-hand side. Apply the right pedal to start the turn, and the left one to stop at the required heading. Pretty good. When making pivoting turns, try to make one smooth movement, and then stop exactly at the desired heading. Now turn 90 degrees left, back to our original heading toward the runway and away from the hangars. Easy, right? Keep in mind that we use pedals to make turns like that only when hovering. We call it pedal turn. In cruise, we change the direction of flight using the cyclic stick, while pedals are used only for adjusting the side slip angle, like in airplanes. By the way, remember our briefing? There is a torque effect caused by our rotor rotating clockwise, and we use pedals to eliminate this rotating tendency. Until now, I was assisting you with the anti-torque control, so you would be able to try changing heading without additional stress of fighting the torque. It is time for you to have full pedal control. On the count of 3, I will stop assisting you with anti-torque. Remember, our rotor rotates clockwise, which means the torque effect will immediately turn our nose left. You will have to press the right pedal to counteract that torque. Ready? You'll be given full pedal control in 3, 2, 1, now. Try to maintain our original heading toward the runway. It is all a matter of finding a good position for the pedals which counteracts the torque. Let's turn 90 degrees left, toward the edge of the trees on the left-hand side. Yes, the helicopter will try to turn there itself, as soon as you ease your right pedal pressure. With small, gentle pedals movements, try to keep our nose heading toward the edge of the trees. Let's now slowly turn right all the way to the helicopter parking, which is behind our back now. Good. Now let's turn 90 degrees left, back to our original heading toward the runway. Super. Now you know how to change and maintain heading with anti-torque pedals, as well as how to counteract the torque. I will now let you perform a little more advanced landing than last time. You will have control of both collective and pedals in the same time. First, fully stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Carefully maintain your heading toward the runway. Always make sure you don't have any movement or yawing before you touch the ground. collective control until you find yourself firmly on the ground. First, fully stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Carefully maintain your heading toward the runway. Congratulations. You landed while having full control of pedals in collective. Way to go. Always make sure you don't have any movement or yawing before you touch the ground. I believe you can benefit from a bit more practice with pedals before you move to the next lesson. Welcome to the third part of our hovering training series. In this training session, you will get familiar with cyclic control and you will learn to counteract translating tendency. Still remember this term from our briefing? Let's start with taking off to a hover. All gauges are green. We have enough fuel, no obstacles around. Let's go. Slowly raise the collective, get light on the skids, and take off to a 2-foot hover. Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Here we are. You probably realize that I am now helping you with anti-torque pedal control. This will help you to fully concentrate on the cyclic stick in this lesson. Look there. The cyclic stick is located between the pilot's legs and looks similar to a joystick or an airplane stick. By moving the cyclic forward, backward, right or left, we tilt the main rotor disc in a chosen direction and subsequently move there. We also use cyclic to counteract left drift caused by translating tendency. You don't feel the drift now because I'm helping you to fight it. I'll let you master hovering movements first before you face the drift. Now use pedals and turn the nose of the helicopter toward the helicopter parking on your right-hand side. Slowly ease the cyclic forward to get our helicopter moving. Establish a walking pace over the ground. The trick here is to move very slowly with the speed of a brisk walk. Gently pull the cyclic back to stop above the center of the heli parking. Good. Don't let the cyclic go. Keep making tiny corrections to maintain position over the center of the parking. Now make a pedal turn 90 degrees left, pointing your nose toward the runway again. You will now make a sideward movement back to our original parking. Keep pointing the helicopter toward the runway, but look left in the direction you are taxiing. Remember to move at a walking pace. Now keep hovering over the center of the parking while I'm talking. Remember how I was helping you to fight the drift? On the count of 3, I will stop assisting you, and you will have full control of the cyclic. Be ready to experience a left tail rotor drift and apply cyclic accordingly to stay over this parking circle. Ready? Prepare to push the cyclic slightly to the right. 3, 2, 1. Your control. Remember, all input should be small and quick. You need to make frequent control inputs and corrections just to stay over one spot. Try to make all movements more gentle. This impact was too hard. Let's make another attempt. You probably realize that I am now helping you with anti-torque pedal control. This will help you to fully concentrate on the cyclic stick in this lesson. Not bad. This improves with practice, of course. Okay, time to land while having full control over cyclic. And collective, of course. Try to be as close to the center of our parking circle as you can. Don't worry if at first we will be a little outside of it. Stabilize your hover at 2 feet altitude. Make sure you don't have any movement before you touch the ground. It is very important because we can easily get dynamic rollover if we are not careful. Gently lower the collective control until you find yourself firmly on the ground. This landing was too hard for our helicopter. Try to be more gentle next time. Let's try again. Congratulations. You landed while having full control on cyclic and collective. Way to go. Prepare to have full cyclic control and push the cyclic slightly right. I would recommend you to spend a little more time practicing cyclic control before you move to the next lesson. Otherwise, I will need to be assisting you there too. Welcome to our final hovering lesson, which will bring together collective, cyclic, and pedal skills you've learned before. It is challenging, but you will find it easier and easier with practice. I will assist you with torque and drift counteraction at first, but step by step you will have full control, and by the end of the training you will be hovering all on your own. Okay, ready? All gauges are green, we have enough fuel, and we are clear to go. Using collective, get light on the skids first, and then take off to a 2-foot hover. Use pedals to maintain a heading toward the runway, and cyclic to keep us exactly above the center of our parking. Here you go. Remember how we were practicing pedal control and counteracting the torque? On the count of 3, I will stop applying right pedal and helping you to counteract the rotating tendency. Make sure to maintain the heading toward the runway by using pedals. 3, 2, 1, go. Pedal control is fully yours now. Just maintain the heading for a few seconds. Good. You work well with the torque effect. Now let's add the translating tendency. On the count of 3, I will stop applying right cyclic, and I will let you counteract the drift by yourself. Try to stay above our parking circle. And of course, don't forget to maintain the heading. 3, 2, 1, go. You have full control on the helicopter, and you are hovering all by yourself. Helicopters are generally dynamically unstable, so you should never stop making small corrections. Use cyclic to move and eliminate drift in the horizontal plane. Use collective to maintain desired altitude. Use pedals to control nose direction or heading. The interaction of these controls makes learning to hover difficult, but so exciting. Do your best to keep your heading and to maintain your position over the parking area. But don't worry if at first you're a little too far from it. Oh, and don't forget to breathe. Probably too much for you at the moment, so let me help you again with anti-torque and drift control. It will allow you to focus on our position and heading. Let's practice a bit of hover taxi now. This time I'll be helping you by counteracting the turning tendencies, so you can concentrate on the altitude and speed. And next time, you can try to hover taxi all by yourself. See the helicopter parking stand that is farther away from our parking? Let's fly there, flying over empty parking on the way, and always staying at the hovering altitude of 2 to 8 feet. Remember to move very slowly, with the speed of a brisk walk. When you move fast, the effectiveness of the rotor increases, which lifts you up and requires you to lower collective to keep your height. And then, when you begin slowing down, you will have to raise collective again to have enough power to hover. But if you move slow and make all inputs gently, you don't even need to use collective that much. Try that. Try to stop exactly above the center of the parking circle. Now let's turn left toward the runway again. You did it. Hover taxi is an essential skill you will need in every flight. And our last objective for today, landing. You already know how to do that. Try to be as close to the center of this parking as you can. Stabilize your hover at an altitude of 2 feet. Make sure you don't have any movement or yawing before you touch the ground. for our helicopter. Try to be more gentle next time. Let's try again. And our last objective for today, landing. You already know how to do that. Try to be as close to the center of this parking as you can. Stabilize your hover at an altitude of 2 feet. Make sure you don't have any movement or yawing before you touch the ground. We're about to leave our training area. Fly back to our training parking area. We can't perform our training here. Try to stay closer to our training area next time. Let's try again. And our last objective for today, landing. You already know how to do that. Try to be as close to the center of this parking as you can. Stabilize your hover at an altitude of 2 feet. Make sure you don't have any movement or yawing before you touch the ground. Welcome to our final hovering lesson, which will bring together collective, cyclic, and pedal skills you've learned before. It is challenging, but you will find it easier and easier with practice. I will assist you with torque and drift counteraction at first, but step by step you will have full control, and by the end of the training you will be hovering all on your own. Okay, ready? All gauges are green, we have enough fuel, and we are clear to go. Using collective, get light on the skids first, and then take off to a 2-foot hover. Use pedals to maintain a heading toward the runway, and cyclic to keep us exactly above the center of our parking. Remember how we were practicing pedal control and counteracting the torque? On the count of 3, I will stop applying right pedal and helping you to counteract the rotating tendency. Make sure to maintain the heading toward the runway by using pedals. 3, 2, 1, go. Pedal control is fully yours now. Just maintain the heading for a few seconds. Good. You work well with the torque effect. Now let's add the translating tendency. On the count of 3, I will stop applying right cyclic, and I will let you counteract the drift by yourself. Try to stay above our parking circle. And of course, don't forget to maintain the heading. 3, 2, 1, go. You have full control on the helicopter, and you are hovering all by yourself. When you approach the ground, raise collective a little to slow down descent and avoid hitting the ground. Let's try again. Remember how we were practicing pedal control and counteracting the torque? On the count of 3, I will stop applying right pedal and helping you to counteract the rotating tendency. Make sure to maintain the heading toward the runway by using pedals. 3, 2, 1, go. Pedal control is fully yours now. Just maintain the heading for a few seconds.
In this lesson, let's take a look at the relationship between attitudes and power settings. Attitude plus power equals performance. We're currently at 5,500 feet in a cruise attitude. The aircraft's nose is positioned under the horizon, and cruise power is at 2,300 RPM. Try to reduce power to 2,000 RPM while maintaining 5,500 feet. That's okay. You probably noticed, to maintain altitude, you need to pitch the nose up. You could just keep pulling on the yoke to hold steady, but that's not really a precise means of control. Probably better to adjust your trim wheel until you don't need to push, or pull on the yoke. Drag the trim down when you need to set the nose up. Drag it up to set the nose down. Try adding trim to keep us at 5,500 feet without increasing throttle. Try it out. Trim the aircraft to maintain 5,500 feet. Try it out. Trim the aircraft to maintain 5,500 feet. Keep working on it, you'll get better. You're not high enough. You're not high enough. Increase power to 2,300 RPM while maintaining 5,500 feet. Get us back to a cruise attitude. Excellent. Now, adjust the trim. All right. Additional practice will help, don't worry. The way I was taught, when you adjust the trim, you make course changes at first to remove pressure on the yoke. Then small adjustments to find the perfect setting to keep your desired attitude. If you feel your pitch slipping and need to get back to the proper attitude, don't worry. Just pull on the yoke, then dial in the right trim. That's the key to straight and level flight. Today we are going to leave our familiar airport of Sedona and venture south to reach Flagstaff Airport. To guide us, we will rely on the navlog. It references the different legs to complete to reach our final destination. Our first goal is to fly over the runway center at 6,500 feet with a heading of 42 degrees. By doing so, we will be perfectly set up to engage with the first leg of the navlog. After takeoff, we will continue crosswind as if we were following the standard traffic pattern. However, we won't turn downwind. Instead, we will continue climbing to 6,500 feet before turning on course toward the runway center. Okay, you can take off whenever you are ready. descend during takeoff. Your target altitude is 6,500 feet. That's 500 feet above the traffic pattern, as we don't want to interfere with incoming aircraft. Maintain 75 knots. As you climb, turn left so you stay in the vicinity of the airport. Great. To ensure accurate navigation, you want an accurate starting point. And what's more accurate than the runway you just departed from? Go ahead and position your plane above the airport. Nice. That's it for navigation departure. Well done. We're currently at 6,500 feet, about 30 seconds flight time to Sedona Airport. As we make our way toward the runway center, let's talk more about navigation. When you need to set and maintain a heading, you'll want to rely on your heading indicator. Compasses are prone to errors, especially during turns, or while accelerating or decelerating. Okay, we're in position over the runway center. Next step is to validate the time. That's a fancy way of saying start your stopwatch. On the navlog, you can see our next waypoint, Munds Park, is at a 42-degree heading, about 5 minutes away. That means we need to be on a 42-degree heading. Check your heading indicator and make your turn. Good. Maintain a 42-degree heading. As you approach Munds Park, the terrain level rises. To maintain a safe altitude, we'd better climb to 8,000 feet. Make sure you keep the same heading. Maintain full power during your climb. Navigation is basically flying a given heading for a given amount of time. Sometimes you deviate. But if you track the time flown from your last known position, you'll always have at least a range for your current position. Okay, now get back to cruise attitude. Let the speed increase, then set cruise power at 2,300 RPM. See the green patch with a lake on its right? This is Munds Park Golf Club. We're almost there. Let's proceed over it and check if the stopwatch matches the navlog estimation. We all know speed can increase or decrease depending on the wind. That's why at your next waypoint you'll want to compare your estimated time and route with the actual time flown. Validate your estimate and your progress. was excellent. Navigation to Munns Park is in the books. All right, we're currently at 8,000 feet, approximately 30 seconds out from Munns Park Golf Club. While we fly over it, let's talk about landmark navigation. One of the easier methods of navigation involves following identifiable landmarks, like highways. And it just so happens we have one below us. Do you see the highway on your left? That highway leads all the way to Flagstaff. Let's follow it, and we should reach Flagstaff Airport in 6 to 7 minutes. To make sure we don't miss it, reset your stopwatch here and start again. Flagstaff Airport's altitude is around 7,000 feet. Unlike in Sedona, the traffic pattern altitude there is standard. This means its altitude is 1,000 feet above the airport, which works out to 8,000 feet. We need to fly over the airport before entering the traffic pattern. Since we don't want to interfere with other aircraft already in the traffic pattern, let's fly at least 500 feet above pattern altitude. So, let's climb to 8,500 feet on the way. Keep it at full power while you're climbing. Perfect. Maintain 8,500 feet until we reach the airport. Set RPM at 2,300. Flagstaff Airport on the right side of the highway. Excellent landmark navigation. Flagstaff Airport is right in front of us, and we're currently at 8,500 feet. That's 500 feet above the standard traffic pattern. It's a good altitude to avoid interfering with aircraft already in the pattern. Proceed above the terrain, making sure you maintain our current altitude. To land on runway 21, coming from the right to the left. We'll be following a left-hand traffic pattern, as we did in Sedona. Ready? Reduce speed to 80 knots and start a turn to the left toward a 120-degree heading. As we pass over the runway again, start descending to 8,000 feet, still maintaining 80 knots. You'll enter the pattern in the middle of the downwind leg for runway 21. We We've got clearance to enter the downwind leg and land on runway 21. Keep your attitude, then follow the standard pattern. Extend 10 degrees of flaps. Complete the traffic pattern until landing, as you learned previously. Good integration, but something tells me you can do even better. Are you ready for this? You are going solo on a full VFR flight. From takeoff to touchdown, it's all you. You'll be departing Flagstaff Pulliam Airport, handling every navigational step on your way to Sedona. It's the return trip from your previous lessons. You'll be flying over the same landmarks. You remember them? The highway, Munns Park Golf Club. Choose whatever you're confident with. Dead reckoning, landmark navigation, or both. This is what you've trained for. Just remember everything you've learned, and most of all, enjoy the ride.
500.
You weren't really supposed to land there.
Welcome to your CPL check ride, the last stop on your way to become a true professional pilot. For this check ride, you will complete a cross-country flight through Los Angeles County, taking off from Van Nuys Airport and then landing at Bob Hope Airport. You can start when you are ready. Van Nuys Ground Cessna, November Tree 5, Tree 2 Tree, with Papa request taxi to the active departure to the east.
TAWS system test.
Cessna November Tree 5 Tree 2 Tree Taxi 2 and hold short of runway 16 right using taxiway Alpha 1 Charlie. Contact tower on 10.2 when ready.
Taxiing hold short runway 16 right via taxiway Alpha 1 Charlie Cessna Tree 2 Tree. Van Nuys Tower Cessna November Tree 5, Tree 2 Tree ready at runway 16 right departure to the east.
Cessna November Tree 5, Tree 2 Tree, altimeter 29er decimal 9er 2 east, departure approved. Cleared for takeoff, runway 16 right.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 16 right, Cessna Tree 2 Tree.
Cessna Tree 2 Tree continue for east departure.
Van Nuys Tower Cessna, November Tree 5, Tree 2 Tree, continue for east departure.
Cessna Tree 2 Tree, leaving my airspace frequency change approved.
Van Nuys Tower Cessna, November Tree 5, Tree 2 Tree, frequency change. Burbank Tower Cessna, November Tree 5 Tree 2 Tree, is 4 miles west 1,800 feet with Juliet to land.
Cessna November Tree 5 Tree 2 Tree Burbank Tower. Altimeter 29.902, fly straight in runway 8.
Fly straight in runway 8, Cessna Tree 2 Tree.
Cessna Tree 2 Tree, follow the Cessna Skyhawk on final. Wind 258 at 6. Cleared to land runway 8.
Cleared to land runway 8, Cessna Tree 2 Tree.
Don't sink. 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 Don't sink.
Cessna Tree 2 Tree, turn next taxiway. Cessna Tree 2 Tree, contact ground on 12 Tree decimal niner.
12 Tree decimal niner Cessna Tree 2 Tree. Burbank ground Cessna November Tree 5 Tree 2 Tree, request taxi to parking.
Cessna November Tree 5 Tree 2 Tree, taxi to general aviation parking via taxiway Delta 7.
Taxiing to general aviation parking using taxiway Delta 7 Cessna Tree 2 Tree.